I want to first welcome all of our candidates for District 16 Congressional seat. My name is Xtavia Bailey, and I am your president and moderator for Manatee Tiger Bay. I have my co-moderator with me, Jamie Smith. Would you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? The flag is to the left of the stage. Right to the candidates. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. We will be starting with the introduction of all of our candidates. They have a 2-minute introduction. They have 2 minutes to answer the question in the first half. They have a 45-second rebuttal if someone says their name, and they have 30 seconds if they want to add or correct something, as long as it is approved by the moderator. Please, to the audience, if you can keep your voices down so the candidates are not distracted, we appreciate it. We have our timers in the front. The green will be timing you from the beginning. The yellow card means you're halfway through, and the red means stop or please finish up. Once we change to the 1-minute responses, we will notify you from the corner, and we are ready. Thank you again to all the candidates for participating in the Manatee Tiger Bay Congressional District 16 debate. We'll start out with our first candidate, Mr. Jonathan Harris. You have 2 minutes for your introduction. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you first for coming out here. Again, my name is John Harris, and I'm running for Congressional District 16. I'm a 20-year Army veteran who is still serving in the United States Army Reserves today at MacDill Air Force Base. I joined the military when I was 20 years old, and I joined in the infantry. I wanted to go serve overseas and protect our freedoms after 9/11 happened. After my stint with the 101st Airborne Division, I came back home and decided to go to school for an IT background, which I did graduate St. Petersburg College for cybersecurity. I am currently a husband and a father, raising 2 small children under the age of 10 here in the Tampa Bay area. I decided to run because I think that for a long time, Congress has fallen out of touch with the needs and the concerns of the constituents here in our district. We see often that folks will get on television and just toe party lines and not actually care about what their constituents are facing here on the ground. Well, I'm here to tell you I'm one of them. I'm not rich. I don't own a business. I am just like the people that I'm trying to represent. And my goal here by running is to represent that next generation, to take ownership of democracy and try and lead us forward in a better, more fair path in terms of representation. So as I speak to you guys tonight and I answer these questions, I want you to know that my goal is not to earn a seat. I've never run for office before. My goal is to be a representative that will show up and represent you, take your voice, your stories to Washington. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Mr. Ed Pope.
Good evening, and thank you to the Manatee Tiger Bay Club for hosting this debate and providing voters the opportunity to hear directly from the candidates seeking to represent Florida's 16th Congressional District. My name is Dr. Edward Pope, and my life has been defined by service. I proudly served our nation in the United States Navy. After my military service, I spent 14 years in law enforcement, protecting our communities, helping victims, and standing on the front lines during some of life's most difficult moments. Throughout my career, I was entrusted with responsibilities where lives, safety, and public trust were on the line. I served as a SWAT team member, firearms instructor, field training officer, traffic homicide investigator, and member of the Presidential Protection Team. I was also honored to be recognized as State Trooper of the Year, Southern Regional Trooper of the Year, Troop F Trooper of the Year for my services, commitment to public safety. Most importantly, I learned that leadership is not about authority. It's about responsibility. It's about serving others, making difficult decisions under pressure, and being accountable for those outcomes. Those lessons have guided me throughout my life and continue to shape the leader who I am today. Today, I serve as the Chief Operating Officer of a company that creates jobs and helps deliver critical medical products and life-saving medications throughout our communities. I understand firsthand the challenges facing small businesses, working families, and the healthcare system because I deal with it every day. I've also dedicated my life to lifelong learning, earning a doctorate in criminal justice, 2 master's degrees, and multiple leadership certifications because I believe effective leadership requires preparation, knowledge, and a commitment to continuous growth. I'm not a career politician. I'm a veteran, former law enforcement officer, business executive, husband, a father, and a citizen who believes our country is at a crossroads. The challenges we face are significant. Families are struggling with rising costs. Our national debt continues to grow. Property insurance remains a burden on Florida homeowners. International conflicts, including tensions in Iran, remain that national security and economic security are closely connected. I look forward to tonight's discussions.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Pope. Next, we have Dr. Tamika Lyles. You have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, and thank you for coming. I'm Tamika Lyles, and I am a candidate for Congressional District 16. I'm not running because Congress has been great to me. Politics has been horrible for me and the people that I represent. I'm running because I've firsthand seen what happens when politicians forget who they're supposed to serve. I'm not a candidate who came from money or power, family connections with the Republican Party, nor do I have any sexual allegations, nor am I under contract with the military and can be deployed at any time. I'm just a woman who was raised to believe that when you see a problem, you don't walk away from it, you step up and do something about it. So at the age of 15, I became the youngest to become the certified nursing assistant in my program's history. I went on to serve in the United States Air Force, caring for service members and veterans. I became a teacher because I believed every child deserves an opportunity. I attended law school and became a mediator because I refused to stand by while families lost their homes. And I became an advocate because too many people in our communities have been told that their voices don't matter. So tonight, while others may talk about political strategy, party loyalty, endorsements, donors, or connections, I'm here to talk about purpose over politics. Washington has plenty of politicians. It lacks public servants. While career politicians are building networks, I was building communities. And while others were climbing political ladders, I was helping veterans, teaching students, and fighting for working families. That's the difference, and that's why I'm different. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Eddie Spear, you have 2 minutes.
All right, thank you very much, and thank you for putting this together, and happy belated birthday, Xtavia. I think that this is an amazing event, and we need more of this to happen, and we need candidates who respect you enough to show up and debate. So I'm a father, a grandfather, and a Christian. I started a business after a successful wrestling career and started it with a financial software company that won national recognition and one of only 100 companies to make the Inc. 500 list 4 times. So a remarkable success in the business world, and at one point in time was worth close to $100 million. Now you might think, okay, he's bragging about money, but I'm also bragging about not having money as well, because we gave a lot of that money away, most of that money away, and I've learned something through that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, that I know what it means to have money and to not have money. So after that, I did work with an opioid crisis. I started Inspiration Academy, that is a school in West Bradenton, one of only 10 in the history of our accrediting body to receive as many commendations as we did. And then I found out something in the beginning during COVID. I found out that, wow, somebody's got to step up and fight against the tyranny that was happening during COVID. So they came and basically tried to shut us down with mask mandates, and there was all kinds of pressure from the county, and we needed somebody that was going to stand up and fight against that tyranny, and that's what I did. I didn't realize that it was in me, but all of a sudden, when you find out that somebody's trying to push lies on you and try to enforce tyranny against you and the people in your school, you got to stand up and fight. So that's what we did. We fought against the tyranny, and I'm excited to tell you guys more. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Jan Schneider, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'm not sure if I'm taller sitting down or standing up, but thank you all for coming. And this is not about me, it's about you. And it's about the voters here. Now, people say to me, why do you keep running when no one else would? Because I'm a believer. I want to give back. I wish I had children like you and you and you. In a sense, I'm running because I couldn't have children. This is my way of giving back and a hook to the future. Yes, I could call myself a doctor too. In truth, my doctorate in political science from Yale paid for law school there. And it mattered because I needed to pay for my own education. What do I believe in? Right now, I think the critical issue is campaign finance reform. 300 billionaire families financed 20% of the last election. And health care. Healthcare should be a right. And I care about women and children. Now, I do have, and those of you who have our white cards, I've been on about 24 national, regional boards, ranging from disabled American veterans to the Law of the Sea Institute. My special thing here is that I have written legislation that Congress has passed. Several bills in past days when I lived in Washington. I've been invited to testify before Congress, my voice notwithstanding. I have been a registered foreign agent and a registered lobbyist before Congress. I could get started right away, mentor someone younger, and make a difference right away. Thank you again for coming, and thank you for doing this.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Glenn Pearson. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Glenn Pearson. I am running for Congress in Congressional District 16. I'm a husband, a father, and a grandfather. And I'm running because for the better part of the last 5 decades, the super rich, well-connected, and big corporations have been having their way. And boy, have they been having a field day, amassing more and more wealth and influence at your expense. We're told to do more with less, while they continue to attack the programs that I want to protect. The system is rigged. I'm running to unrig it because now it's the people's turn. The programs I want to protect, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, programs that protect food assistance, programs that protect our elderly, our veterans, that protect our environment. I'm running for health care for everyone, not just the privileged few. I'm running to protect women's rights, workers' rights, LGBTQ rights. All of these programs are under attack so that the 938 billionaires that we have in the United States can just continue to get fatter and fatter. It's time for that to change. I used to be a newscaster, a television reporter and anchor, and in that role, I won a couple of Emmys, and I was nominated for many more. But my job was simple. It was to tell the truth, ask the tough questions, and hold the powerful accountable. And that's exactly what I'll do when I get to Washington, when you send me there as your congressman. I will make sure that the special interests don't have a larger voice than you, the people, because we, the people, are more powerful than the people in power when we are together. And that's what it is that we want to do. I want to represent you and be your voice in Washington.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Kelly Kirshner. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Xtavia, Jamie, METV, for doing this at a time when we don't have much print media. Media coverage on these races critically important, and would echo what Eddie said just about all of you being here and the importance of these conversations that hopefully you'll go out, post on social media, tell your neighbors and friends about what you hear tonight. I'm a third-generation Floridian. My grandfather moved to Bradenton, not far from here, in 1955. My dad had the good sense to come back to Florida after he graduated from college and was in New York City working, and bought a citrus stand right next to the Sarasota-Bradenton Airport, which is where I grew up. I went to college at Georgetown University, where I received a full scholarship to work for the men's basketball team, and because of that full scholarship, went on to continue to get my master's degree in Latin American Studies from Georgetown as well, and then immediately after graduating, joined the U.S. Peace Corps because I felt like what my grandmother told me in growing up, as a good Catholic to whom much has been given, much will be expected, and giving back in service in the Peace Corps was critically important. Immediately after the Peace Corps, I joined USAID, that's recently been eliminated by this current administration, despite the fact that it is less than 1% of our federal budget, and is critically important to addressing issues like migration crisis from places south of the border and the work that we were doing to actually stabilize families' lives. When I came back home, got really involved in neighborhood politics, and I think a lot of the things that we see, particularly in Sarasota and Manatee counties, of excessive development and the same things that we see in Washington, D.C., that developers put money in and they get basically land use changes, zoning changes out from their elected commissions. And it was one of the reasons why I ran and won with 75% of the vote against an incumbent who outspent me 3-1. The chair of the Republican Party that outspent me 3-1 was Joe Gruters. I'm proud to have been a co-founder of Unidos Now, a local nonprofit that's helped thousands of students get into local selective colleges and universities throughout the country. I'm animated to talk to you more about all of these issues. That was the fastest 2 minutes ever. And I'm excited to be here this evening. Thank you all.
Could
Thank
I
you
get
so-
a little bit of time since he mentioned my name? I'm just playing by the rules.
One second. That's just your opening. Give me 1 second. So we did invite all of the candidates. Sydney Gruters is not here. They declined the invitation, so please give a round of applause to all the candidates that showed up tonight. 30 seconds, Eddie.
All right, I'm just trying to maximize my time. If you don't have a big budget, you got to do everything you can to get your message across. And I'm the largest grassroots candidate in Republican history in Florida by the number of petitions that were signed. So please understand, I'm willing to do the hard work, and I was able, by God's grace, to get 40% of the vote against an incumbent last time around, and we were able to take down the developers and people like Anthony Pedicini during the last election. Please ask me more.
So we have 5 Democrats on the stage, and we have 2 Republicans on the stage. Like I said, the third Republican that is actually endorsed by the president is not here this evening. Opening question, we will start with Mr. Pope. Florida's 16th district is experiencing rapid growth. What is the single most important issue facing our district today? What specific action would you take in your first year in Congress to address it?
Well, Florida's environment is one of our greatest assets. Our waterways, our coastlines, beaches, and natural resources are critical to the quality of life in our economy. I reject the idea that we must choose between protecting the environment and creating economic opportunity. We can do both. We should support responsible growth, invest in water quality improvements, protect our natural resources, and hold polluters accountable while also creating jobs and encouraging economic development. As a congressman, I will support common sense solutions that preserve Florida's natural beauty while ensuring future generations have the same opportunities we enjoy today. Good stewardship of our environment is not a partisan issue. It's our responsibility.
Thank you. Same question, Dr. Lyles?
Clean water is not a partisan issue. It is a public health issue, economic issue, constitutional responsibility. And I support 4 things: strong federal enforcement of Clean Water Act. Polluted water does not just stop on county lines. Secondly, federal oversight to ensure consistent standards and accountability. 3, funding EPA to carry out the mission of protecting our air and water. And 4, the fight for federal investments on coastal resilience. That means our red tide mitigation, stormwater infrastructure, and habitat restoration, because prevention costs far less than recovery. Also, I would direct federal resources toward workforce housing, senior housing, and first home buyers. It's not a matter of whether we are building here. We are building, but the question is, who are we building for? That's the real question.
Thank you. Mr. Spear?
Could you ask the question again? Make sure that I
Absolutely.
answer it.
Florida's 16th district is experiencing rapid growth.
Yeah.
What is the single most important issue facing our district today? And what specific action would you take in your first year in Congress to address it?
I love the comments about environment. I hope we can get back to the environment. But to answer the question directly, this button says the problem. We're under control by the developers and by the campaign finance reforms that need to take place. So the first thing that I would do is campaign finance reform. Make sure that people understand where the money is going so that we can see that it's Pat Neal that's paying for Sidney Gruters for their fundraisers. And this is what's happening and causing all this overdevelopment. And there's something called land use arbitrage. And I'm trying to educate people on this as much as I possibly can. So what ends up happening is they depress prices. It's intentional. They're depressing prices so developers can snatch up farmland, and then all they have to do is, if they have the county commissioners, with the stroke of a pen, they take something that was $3,000 an acre, and now it's $50,000 an acre. This is happening, and as a matter of fact, it just happened yesterday at the Board of County Commissioners meeting here in Manatee County. They stroked a pen and gave back impact fees to the tune of $2.5 million to developers. This is happening right in front of us, and we need to recognize this, and we need to be able to trace this back to the people that are, and I'd like to see politicians with bumper stickers like NASCAR so we can see who's paid for, and we need that. We need to push for reform, campaign finance reform, while we look at overturning Citizens United. That's a longer fight. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Schneider?
Well, I won't talk about environment because I worked for 8 years for the UN Environment Program, and that says it. Although I have to make an observation. This is the first time in this area I've seen a panel with more Democrats than Republicans. Times are a-changing. Anyway, I said I think campaign finance reform and electoral reform is the most important issue before our country right now. And I'm already working with, believe it or not, a Republican member of Congress to help him do some drafting. But locally, our major issue is health care. When the Republicans struck down the premium tax credits under the Affordable Care Act, tens of thousands of people lost health insurance. The Republican Party has voted more than a dozen times to turn Medicare into a premium support, AKA voucher program. We have the fortunate or unfortunate distinction of being one of the oldest districts in the country in terms of median age. We have to look out for seniors and children most of all, and that's what this district needs. One special interest, while I violently opposed the cruise ship port at Teresita, the federal government should be more supporting Seaport Manatee. It's got extra capacity. It needs to be dredged. It employs tens of thousands of people. And geez, affordability is already too far gone in this district. We have to have, I'm not for affordability, I'm for economic security, not transient affordability. More later on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pearson, same question.
When I think about things that are pressing us, all of us here in this auditorium today, Well, we've just entered hurricane season, haven't we? And that's something that is on our minds because we don't know what's around the corner. We saw last year 2 hurricanes that went from, Category 2 to Category 5 overnight. These are things that concern us all. It's the environment. So I would definitely work to protect our clean air, our clean water, and environmentally sensitive areas like the Terracea Aquatic Preserve. But specifically, I would strengthen our environmental laws. I support science-based decision-making, not what we have going on right now with this administration, where some 900 sensors are being yanked out of the Atlantic and the Pacific. These are sensors that allow scientists to be able to predict how hurricanes are going to be, how intense they're going to be. They're taking them out right now as we're in the middle of hurricane season. That is sort of dumb, if you ask me. And I see what it's like when government ignores science. When I was working as a television reporter in New York City at WNBC, I covered the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks and the toxic World Trade Center dust. And I saw the deleterious effects that it had on people when the government ignored science. The EPA ignored the recommendations from its own panel, and people suffered as a result. I will definitely hold the powerful accountable. I'm not going to let them get away with it. I'm going to continue to ask the tough questions, shine the spotlight when they are failing the public, and make sure that you know and that we all know how it is that they are screwing us so that we can actually make progress. Because I said before, it's the people's turn, and it truly is.
Thank you. Mr. Kirschner?
Thank you, Octavia. As I mentioned before, I ran for office really about this issue, which is rampant development. And similar to what was said, we had a proposal in my neighborhood where I was living where they wanted to change the zoning from what was residential townhomes with a height of a maximum of 3 stories, 18 units an acre, and change the zoning to 50 units an acre up to 10 stories. And that would have been within 30 feet of World War II single-story bungalow homes. And we had a commission that, similar to what we've heard, was really bought and paid for by the development community. And lo and behold, they voted for it. We organized a protest on City Hall of over 200 people from every neighborhood in Sarasota. It led to a community movement of really throwing everyone out, similar to what just happened in Manatee County 18 months ago. And so the first thing that I did when I got on the commission was then lead an effort on campaign finance reform. And so if we want to start addressing some of these issues and ensure that communities have a voice, and it is not just the development community, at a federal level, the campaign finance reform that we enacted, it was passed with 83% of the vote. The most significant campaign finance reform in the state of Florida's history for any municipality. As soon as Citizens United passed, it was rendered null and void, even though 83% of the populace had voted for it. And so what does need to be done at a federal level is immediate greater transparency on dark money, which can be done immediately. And then we talk about the constitutional termination of Citizens United so that all of us can take our republic back.
Thank you so much. Mr. Harris, same question.
Thank you. To start, I'd like to talk about a family I met while I was on the campaign trail, a young family of 4 who are living in Bradenton. Both parents are working, and both parents are struggling with the cost of their home insurance. As we talk about how people are struggling, or what's the most important thing to address in this district, it's people are struggling to pay the basics, whether that be the cost of their homes, how much their home insurance costs. In this particular case, it was $9,000 a year, which is outrageous. The cost of groceries is up 30%. So I don't want to say affordability, but the cost of living just to cover the basics is crazy. When me and my wife have to put our kids in daycare, it costs us almost $2,200 a month just to keep them in daycare so we could participate in the workforce. So to say that, I think all of these issues are important, but we do need to try and find ways that we can lower the cost for the people who live here, because if you work full-time in America, you should be able to afford to live in the communities that you grew up in the communities that you built, the communities that you retired in. And then we focus on the other people who have fixed incomes. Those people are greatly impacted by the cost of insurance rising, like I said. How can you plan for a $9,000 jump in your home insurance? That's, again, crazy. So as we look for the problem that I'm going to address day one, my growth economy addresses exactly that. We are trying to fix the affordability issue here and make sure that people can afford to stay in their homes. Thank you.
Yes.
I want to address one of my opponents that brought up campaign finance reform in a capacity.
Which opponent?
Kelly,
Go ahead.
in that he's saying that he's on board with campaign finance reform, but coming from a family of Republicans, your family were the ones that supported Citizens United in the first place. So if in fact we reverse Citizens United, then that would put a limit on where you receive your funds from.
Thank you. Kelly, you may.
Thanks, Xtavia. Appreciate the opportunity to get to speak more about it. I'm sure all of us are not necessarily always connected to our family members and what they may or may not do. I'm proud of my father. He was a lifelong Republican, but he was also one of the first Republicans that came out in the state of Florida to support Bill Clinton. And my father showed nuance and he showed responsibility to cross the aisle. He was also an incredible local citizen that led a number of community efforts and was an elected official. He was also someone that worked against me with when I ran for office publicly, and it's documented in the Herald Tribune. So I think there's an ability for me to speak about myself and what I believe in, and I have a record to prove it by virtue of what I did when I was commissioner and mayor of the city of Sarasota. Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on. We got to get into your first question, guys. If you guys,
It'll just be real quick, because if I'm allowed.
20 seconds.
Fair enough. Somebody mentioned the takeover in Manatee County. We need to recognize who was a major architect of that takeover, and that was me calling out the corruption and saying that people like Anthony Pedicini have to get out of here. And that's exactly what we did, and we informed the citizens of the corruption that was happening, and now he's gone. And now other people are looking at Manatee County as the model to follow.
Thank you.
Good evening. I have the next question, and it's going to fall under insurance and cost of living. But first, I want to say, regardless of party, I want to thank you all for being here and leading by example, for your courage to sit up there, for your collaboration with each other despite, and for the conversation. The first question. Many families report that groceries, healthcare, housing, and utilities are becoming increasingly difficult to afford. Which of these concerns, please be specific, should Congress prioritize and why? And I'm going to start with Jan Snyder, please.
Could you repeat the four choices again?
Yes, ma'am. Groceries, healthcare, housing, and utilities.
There's not so much that Congress can do directly on groceries and on utilities. Housing, the federal government can do more for low-income housing, and does, although here I run a free legal clinic for residents of public housing, so I should lean that way, but it's health care. Health should be a right, and we have too many people who can't take medicine. They can't afford it. Health care should be a right. I'm a Medicare for all person. There are some compromises we can make. We have to revive Medicaid. And by the way, the Veterans Health Administration is faltering very, very badly. They fought for us. You guys fought for us. We need to fight for them. And health care is a sphere in which Congress can do more than, say, in housing. I mean, insurance is a great crisis here, But Congress gave insurance back to the state a couple of decades ago. Yeah, we need to revive FEMA and disaster insurance, and Congress can deal with secondary insurance. But in fields where Congress has major responsibility, I'll pick health care. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pearson?
I too believe that health care is the most pressing issue right now. That's why I am for health care for everyone, and that's why I signed the Patients Over Profits Pledge, sponsored by the National Nurses Union. The reason I did that is because I believe that health care should be a right for everyone. I'm one of only 2 people on this stage who signed that pledge. Here's the deal. I've developed a small business where I work with people on a daily basis, helping them navigate Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. And I hear stories every day about not being able to afford their premiums. I deal with seniors who are looking at maybe cutting their pills in half because they can't pay the rent. Healthcare costs are out of control, and we are the richest country on the planet, and we don't have universal health care. That is a problem. We need to do something about that. And then you think about what Congress has done with this big, ugly bill, took $1 trillion away from Medicaid. We need to claw back that money to make sure that people are served well. Even though we can't have universal health care just like that, we can strengthen the ACA. We can make sure that we extend the subsidies beyond what they are right now. We can make sure that we shore up Medicaid. We can protect Medicare. But that is something that is absolutely vital, and it's worrying people to death. When it comes to groceries, even though the federal government can't do a whole lot, I do support stronger antitrust enforcement against these giant food conglomerates that get together and they raise prices and they make record profits while we are paying more money that way. The federal government can do something about that too.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Kirshner?
Thank you. I was honored this past Sunday to be the only candidate here endorsed by the AFL-CIO. The AFL-CIO is the conglomerate of unions that represents from iron workers to flight attendants to teachers here in Manatee County to the people that are digging poles and extending fiber optics to our home. And I think they gave me that endorsement because they understand my record and what I've done as an elected official, but they also understand what I intend to do when I'm elected. And I think maybe what motivates all of you to come out is this constant burning question. Why do we have a Congress that is so inept and unable to fix all of these problems that we know we face, and yet they are incapable of having a serious conversation, incapable of having a conversation among themselves across the aisle? And so when it comes to the cost of groceries, I would disagree. If you have an illegal tariff war for a year that adds $1,600 to $2,000 per house on a range of things that go into what you buy at your supermarket, that's an issue. If you have a war of choice that impacts and doubles the cost of petroleum and our gas and fertilizer that goes to produce that food, that's going to have a tremendous impact on families. And we need a Congress with a backbone that does not abdicate their right to control the purse, to control how and when we go to war against foreign nations, to come back and say we are advocating for the families that we serve, and not just these powerful interests and the oligarchs and billionaires that are basically funding this. I would also say Florida is the largest state in the union that receives ACA subsidies. We have known for years that that subsidy would go away in December of this past year, and yet where was anyone in our local delegation, much less the state of Florida, working to ensure that families did not get shafted and paying literally hundreds and sometimes over $1,000 more a month just to have health insurance? Thank you.
Thank you.
So, me next, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So, I agree with my Democratic colleagues. I think that health insurance is actually out of that 4 is going to be the primary thing that I would be focusing on, and I think that's the most important. The statistic that kind of jumped out at me when I was doing some research to run for this campaign is that the biggest cost of bankruptcy is actually healthcare-related costs, which shouldn't be the case. If we sit here and say that we are one of the most developed nations on the planet, then we should be able to provide health care to our citizens, especially when we're taking in somewhere in the neighborhood of about $5 or $6 trillion a year in income. So I believe, and this is as of my research today, I'm the only candidate on this stage that actually has a published plan for how to address healthcare. It's called the American Choice Healthcare Plan. It starts by eliminating the healthcare monopolies that have plagued the healthcare system and artificially inflated the costs, but also taking a public option that allows people to say, hey, if you like your health insurance, you keep it. But for those who aren't insured or relying on ACA subsidies, you have the option to take a government-funded plan, which is pegged to Medicare, which will allow you to get services at a fair premium. And then when you expand that across the entire scope of healthcare, you can then start to negotiate drug prices, because now I have a whole bunch of people that I'm bargaining on behalf of, which lowers the cost of prescription drugs, thus saving us money. So when we talk about the problems that we're facing here locally, healthcare is going to be something that's vital and something that, again, to Kelly's point, we're the largest recipients of ACA subsidy, ACA here in Florida. And that amounts to, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 4 to 5 million people. So we need to get a control on this by providing people with a viable option, because when competition doesn't exist, inflation happens. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Pope?
As a father of 5 and a taxpayer, affordability should be one of your top concerns. I hear everywhere I go in Florida's 16th district, families are paying more for groceries, gas, housing, insurance, and health care, while many paychecks are simply not keeping up. The federal government cannot spend its way out of inflation. In fact, excessive government spending is one of the reasons costs have risen so dramatically. We need to restore fiscal responsibilities, reduce wasteful spending, and promote policies that grow our economy rather than expanding government. That means supporting American energy production to lower fuel and utility costs, reducing unnecessary regulations that increase the cost of doing business, strengthening our supply chains, and creating an environment where small businesses can grow and create jobs. The goal should be simple: make it easier for families to keep more of what they earn. Make it more affordable for seniors to live on a fixed income, and ensure the next generation can achieve the American dream. Affordability starts with responsible leadership, not a strong economy. Homeownership has long been a cornerstone of the American dream, but for many young families, that dream feels increasingly out of reach. The problem is not just one thing. It's a combination of inflation, rising interest rates, increasing insurance costs, excessive regulations, and a lack of housing supply. We need policies that encourage responsible development, reduce unnecessary barriers to construction, and create economic conditions where families can afford to buy a home and build wealth. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Lyles?
I believe I am the only former healthcare worker up here. So when we talk about healthcare, I have a background where I was trained and worked in healthcare since I was 15 years old. So I've seen the devastation that healthcare has done to people who are supposed to have the quote-unquote good insurance versus those without it. And I've also been here in Florida since 2012, fighting for Medicaid expansion since 2012 when I got here. I currently sit on the board of Medicare for All, where we have looked to expand that starting inside every county within the state, because we knew we had a governor that would not support that. So healthcare is an issue here. At that time, there was almost 700,000 people here in the state of Florida that were within the healthcare gap. That meant that they worked, but they just could not afford healthcare. While I agree that healthcare is an issue, I think that the tariffs that are driving the cost of groceries up are a bigger issue right now. Because if you can't eat, that's a problem. And so while broad tariffs raise the cost of what families face every day, it also hurts our small businesses as well, which pass on those prices onto our communities. So not only are we facing a hardship with groceries, we're having a hardship living. So it's a combination of those things. But I think to tackle the tariffs would be to make sure that they're targeted on industries and protection of our country, but not broad where we feel the pain of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spear.
Yeah, I've got to reject the premise of the question in the first place, respectfully. It's setting up, the question itself sets up government to be the solution provider, and government is not the solution. If there's anything we learned, the 9 scariest words is I'm with the government and I'm here to help. So we need to avoid falling into that trap. I have an economic plan. It's on my website under the blog section, and Washington talks about cutting spending and shrinking government while doing the exact opposite. We've got a problem, and it's called inflation. $2 trillion just this year of inflation. That's the hidden tax that is crippling Floridians. And that is a problem that affects healthcare, it affects groceries, it affects everything. So first, we need to ban omnibus bills entirely, one subject per bill. We need single item bills, no more hiding wasteful pet projects inside a bill that funds troops, or every dollar needs to stand on its own and get its own vote so that members of Congress can come back home and defend their votes. That will change how much spending is happening in Congress, hold them accountable. Second, we need to break up the big tech monopolies the same way we broke up Ma Bell in 1982. That breakup gave us cheaper phones and an explosion of innovation. That will be an explosion of small business. These platforms need to interoperate, and interoperability is something that Congress can actually do, create interoperability standards. I give the example of your cell phone. How in the world do we have so many problems with just texting with Android and Apple phones? This is a simple solution that Congress refuses to deal with because there's monopolies that are at play. This is a simple solution, and interoperability standards is going to allow small businesses to just completely take off and American ingenuity to thrive. Third, we need to fix the H-1B before it costs one more American their career. We need a real wage floor, cut the cap, and force companies to prove that they actually tried to hire an American first instead of checking a box that verifies nobody.
Thank you. Ms. Schneider?
First, Glenn, were you counting me as one of the 2 who signed that pledge?
Yes, I was.
Well, thank you. Second, general observation, and I'm guilty of this too. We are confusing health insurance and health care. Medicare is a form of health insurance, ACA is, Medicaid is. As someone who worked a large part of their career giving the Canadian government advice on US law, we don't want our health professionals working for the government. If I said health care before, I meant health insurance, and I suspect a lot of others did too.
Thanks, Jamie.
30 seconds, sir.
Yeah. 47% of this congressional district is referred to as asset limited, income constrained, which means you are one car accident, one health emergency away from financial disaster. I disagree that government does not play a role, but I really think that government should not be actively harming our citizenry. This government right now, over the past 20 months, has increased our national debt by $2 trillion. The lie of fiscal conservatism, if it hasn't been exposed the past 20 months, really needs to go away. We need responsible governance.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to start with, where's my list? Dr. Laus. The Department of Government, or DOGE, targeted and downsized several federal agencies through mass layoffs, program eliminations, and contract terminations. For example, the USAID, Department of Education cut nearly 900 million independent research contracts. Department of Health and Human Services cut over 20,000 positions and slashed 4 billion from the National Institute of Health. Which one of these departments do you feel we shouldn't have cut, or do you think this was a successful outlook as far as the DOGE? Do you think that department was successful?
Wow. Okay, could you mention the departments again?
A few of the departments was USAID, Department of Education, Department of Health and Human Services, the National Oceanic and Atmosphere Administration, and Department of Homeland Security, Department of Agriculture. Do you feel that the DOGE department was successful?
Simple answer, no. I do not feel that DOGE was successful.
And why not?
I feel that DOGE cut services that are needed to our most vulnerable, especially when we look at our veterans. Our veterans were already waiting for months to receive care. And now in that cut, we have gone even longer to receive care. There was always an issue with veterans receiving their benefits. They were going sometimes a year, 2 years before they even received their benefits to get started. So those cuts to that then put those individuals on the back burner. Our veterans have volunteered to serve this country. There is no reason why they volunteer to fight for this country that they should come home and then fight this country to survive. And that's what DOGE did. In regards to the Department of Education, we have individuals that are running the Department of Education who have absolutely no education. So while I stand by financials needing to be in our public schools to support our teachers, to support our students, there is no reason why we should be eliminating the Department of Education when our students need that. Our students rely on the department to ensure that there is equality within our schools and that our students are learning the way that they should be. So those are two of those departments. I don't have enough time to address all of
I
those.
just want you to choose a couple. Go ahead, Eddie.
All right, let's just start with Department of Education. I run a school, and I can tell you the Department of Education has done nothing for me, nothing for the school, and in my opinion, darn near nothing for this state. So please tell me what they're doing. There's certain programs, certainly, but I believe in the doctrine of the lesser magistrate, which is a Christian principle that says basically that the best decision-making is the most local decision-making. So when it comes to education, it's parents first, and then the teacher, and then staff and administration, and then the county. We can handle this. We don't need to be spending millions and billions of dollars on something that isn't benefiting us. The rest of the DOGE, I just want to remind everybody that inflation is the hidden tax. $2 trillion in debt. It's a national security issue. It's a major issue, and we've got to make cuts. And so I don't have the specifics on all of these departments, but I can tell you, USAID, I know that there was somebody saying that USAID, that's filled with all kinds of corruption and needs to be cut. It's a big problem for sure. And there's a lot of other organizations. So I think more cuts need to be made rather than just talking about cuts so that we stop burdening Floridians and taxpayers with this hidden tax just by printing money. We don't even realize this, that they just print money and next thing you know, this dollar doesn't go as far as it used to go. $2 trillion. It's a massive issue and it affects everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan.
None of us is going to favor cuts to the Department of Education, I'm sure. Now, with our national debt approaching $40 trillion, last time I looked, it was 39.2. I'm not opposed to some cuts, but not those cuts, except maybe Homeland Security. Had they cut ICE, I would have been in favor of that. instead of putting a whole lot more money into ICE. And education, though, I said I'm for economic security. That includes quality public education, and for everybody, including the disabled and anyone who needs it. Homeland Security is an essential department. ICE is an abomination. It has a function. We have to. USAID made us respected around the world, and furthermore, helped curb disease around the world. That affects us too. I think Doge is crazy. I do think Doge was successful in doing what Donald Trump and Elon Musk wanted it to do, a total gross failure for the rest of us. Thank you.
Mr. Pope?
I understand why people are concerned when they hear about federal funding and program cuts. As fiscal conservative, I believe we must eliminate wasteful fraud and abuse in Washington, but we must also protect programs that truly serve the people of Florida. The federal government is over $36 trillion in debt. We cannot continue spending money we don't have and expect our children and grandchildren to pay the bill. Every program should be reviewed to determine whether it is producing real results for the taxpayers. If programs benefits veterans, seniors, public safety, infrastructure, agriculture, or working families in District 16, I will fight to protect it. It is wasteful, duplicative, or being used for political agendas instead of helping Americans, then it should be reformed or eliminated. My job as your congressman is to be a good steward of your tax dollars. That means making sure every dollar spent helps the people strengthen our communities and supports our economy. We can be fiscally responsible without abandoning the people we serve. That's the balance I bring to Congress, protecting taxpayers while standing up for the families, seniors, veterans, and small businesses that make District 16 strong. Thank you.
Mr. Harris?
Yeah, I think one, the Doge cuts were not a success. And two, one of the cuts that was made was to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. This is a unique thing because we live in Florida. They specialize in weather prediction and weather modeling. So if we're talking about what's locally relevant, right, we deal with hurricanes every year. And we're going to cut a organization that helps us track and plot hurricanes. Again, crazy. When we talk about the Department of Education, one of the things that they do is a lot of research, right? And the specific cuts that we know happened was $1 trillion, but to the research and also the civil rights or departments. As a person of color, I think it's important that we do have civil rights in this country. I don't know why we would go away from that. And then I think the point about DHS. Yeah, I think ICE has the same or a higher budget than the Coast Guard. How is that a thing? ICE. We don't need ICE in our cities. We need ICE and Border Patrol at the border, making sure that we are maintaining a secure border. We don't need them policing up people in our streets because my daughters are speaking Spanish. And the last thing I want is to have deployed 4 times in service of this nation and them get rounded up because they speak a different language.
Kelly?
Thank you. It's fascinating going around now and talking to a number of Republicans and independents that said in 2016 in those Republican debates, I thought that entrepreneur, he was truth-telling. He said something like, I know what it is because I bought all of these people. I bought them as Democrats. I bought them as Republicans. And people said, Donald Trump is going to deliver to us this truth opportunity. And then he comes in with Elon Musk, and they says, we're going to root out fraud, waste, and abuse. And if you can see Anthony Pedicini, and if you can see Carlos Baruf, and if you can see Pat Neal and what they've done in corrupting us here locally, I don't know how in the world you can't see what Elon Musk and all these others have done in corrupting the federal process, eliminating things like the Consumer Protection Bureau, that all it was doing was clawing back fraud, waste, and abuse perpetuated against U.S. citizens, and you're going to shut that down? You're going to eliminate 20,000 workers from the USDA to stop things like screwworm, and then right now we're paying hundreds of millions of dollars as screwworm invades this country and threatens our food supply. We're already importing 50% of our fruits and vegetables. We're close to importing 50% of our protein. And now because of these Doge cuts, it's a lie. And the falsity of it is with Doge, so how do we go up by $2 trillion? How is that defensible? Where is the fiscal conservatism of this? And so if we call it out locally, we have to call it out federally as well.
Glenn? I see you, Eddie. Go ahead, Glenn.
If I could talk, he was looking at me, so.
Hold on. Go ahead, Glenn. You can answer the question. I'll be back to you, Eddie.
I did not mention any candidate by name.
He did. That was-
No,
He just was
I did
looking
not
at you,
mention
Eddie.
any
He was just
candidate.
looking at you.
I think you're very handsome, but especially with that hat.
Mr. Pearson.
Yes. The Doge cuts were quite honestly unlawful, and that's something that Congress needs to take a look at and actually hold hearings and hold those people accountable who did these things. Cutting USAID, we allowed food to rot, food that could have easily been distributed. We allowed that food to rot, and people have died as a result of that. Shame on us. When it comes to NOAA, we need to understand what's going on. Just to continue on with what I started earlier when I was talking about those 900 sensors that are being ripped out right now. It's not to save money, because it only costs several $1 million. And that, is just, that's like a drop in the ocean. So it's all ideological. This is not about saving money. And just to go off of the point that you look at our national debt continues to increase, even though we've had all of these cuts. It's not about saving money. It's about ideology. The Department of Education, again, it's ideology. It's not about, these programs mean nothing. No, it's actually doing something for schools, doing something for public education. I'm a product of public education. The Department of Education had a whole lot to do with my being here right now. I'm not Harvard educated. I'm not Yale educated. I'm just like you. And the Department of Education had everything to do with that. So cutting that back is wrong. It's absolutely wrong. And then when it comes to our veterans, we owe our veterans a huge debt. They have sacrificed. They've put their lives on the line. They come back, many of them have been gravely injured, and then we're going to cut benefits? We're going to cut staff? It doesn't make any sense. It is not right at all.
He looked at me
So
too.
I'm gonna start moving in on your time. So you have, Dr. Lyles, you may go, then Eddie, your responses are gonna have to be cut to 1 minute for your questions. I will be moving. Don't worry about it. Don't look like that, Kelly. Go ahead, Dr. Lyles.
I'm glad that you came to me first, because I know that this is about the Department of Education, and that was also what Kelly was probably looking at Eddie about. But I just want to say that when we look at cutting the Department of Education, that means that we take the protections away from our students, such as our students that have disabilities.
Yeah.
So think about that. And I want to add, when someone tells me that their school does not want to abide by the government's oversight, then I say that that school does not need government funding.
Eddie?
Government demands that I check my faith at the door, and that I can't teach what is so critically important to so many people. So we decided, as a private institution, to hold on to what parents want. They want their students, they want their kids to have faith and be integrated. So just that in and of itself, faith is a critical aspect, and the Department of Education hasn't done anything to help me with, help our school with that. The one thing that I do want to say is, who here has actually fought against the corruption? Who calls out Joe Gruters and James Buchanan for putting together a storm shelter for $10 million for Benderson? Who has actually won and kicked them out of Manatee County? Who has actually put up the fight? And I know somebody over there, I'm not going to say his name, is raising his hand, but I don't think he's put up the same kind of fight that we put up here and the success that we had. Go ahead and sit down. Sit down. Sit down.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Thank you. I have put up the fight. I beat Joe Gruters. I beat him on that issue. One thing, AID was mentioned. It was 1% of our federal budget. It is critically important soft power that other folks up here have mentioned, and how we extend that and how we lead with the values of this country that I think Judeo-Christian values, by the way, would instruct us that we do that. And that's how we have moral leadership, and that's how we regain respect in the world. And we do that and fortify the strength of our republic by doing that as well.
This moves against a America First initiative and puts us in an untenable position of being the world's cops all the time. And so there are cuts that need to be made, but
Thank you, Eddie. Keep moving on.
Can I respond?
You
'Cause he
may
was-
do so in your closing, so right now we'd like to move along so we can get additional topics covered. The next one is immigration and border security. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you, do you know anyone who's broken the law? When they've broken the law, have you expected them to go through a system where they are held accountable and innocent until proven guilty? I'm going to start with that. With the border security policy, whether your belief is it's broken or it's not been enforced, ladies and gentlemen, that is the past. You are here to lead the future. So, as our leaders of the future, what does a successful border security policy look like to you? And I'm going to go ahead and start with Dr. Lyles.
I think it looks like us respecting our Constitution. I think that if we took our Constitution for what it was written for, we would know that these individuals respect dignity. They also should not be discriminated against. I know that ICE is picking up individuals just by looking at them. We went through this already. We saw this in New York with the stop and frisk laws. We saw this before, that law enforcement would just stop individuals because of the way they looked. So we are definitely moving backwards when we look at this. So our border security should reflect dignity. It should reflect due process. It should reflect all of these things, a pathway to citizenship, affordable pathway to citizenship is what we should have. But we have a lot of work to do when it comes to our border security. And I'm all for securing our borders, but in a humane way. We have to get rid of these detention centers and these things that do not represent what our country was put in place to do. We are supposed to allow individuals to seek asylum here, and we are punishing them. We are sending individuals back to places where they never came from. We're separating families. This is not the country that I volunteered to fight for. This is not what we do. So we need to move back, and we need to go and take on the Constitution as our founding way of how we move and ensure that we're not violating the rights of these individuals that seek asylum here.
Thank you. Eddie?
Yeah. We've got, you talked about due process. Due process is provided to American citizens. And
Nah.
if somebody is here illegally, then they need to be removed. I went to the border 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I went to the border and I saw what was happening. There's between Iran, Venezuela, and Nicaragua, there is a jihad against Americans and against our country. You can look at the videos if you don't believe me. They are there, and 20 to 30%, the sheriffs in Arizona and Texas told me 20 to 30% were intent on jihad when they came across. Now, under the Biden administration, that was $15 million people. So you're looking at about 2 to 3 million people who came over here with the intention of jihad. Now, if there's some certain bad actors within ICE, we need to deal with that, but there's still a mandate to follow the law and to be a law-abiding country, and people that come here need to respect those laws. And then if they don't, we need to have these decisions. And look, if you don't like the way ICE is doing it, that's one thing, but we've got to respect the mandate that's been given to them by this government and by the Constitution and our Founding Fathers, which recognizes what citizenship is all about.
Thank you. Mr. Harris?
So I want to be clear and talk about what immigration means to this community. DeSoto is Florida's leading producer of oranges, watermelons, and tomatoes. Hardy County's farms feeds other states and this state. These farms run off of immigrant labor. St. Petersburg's South Side has families who have been here for generations building their own American story. My position on border security is, yes, we need to secure our borders. However, that means having a functional system in place that processes amnesty claims and asylum claims in weeks, not years. Because that is what, I mean, how can we say it's functioning if it takes years to get processed through the system? We need to funnel resources in the form of judges, in the form of processing officers, case officers, to actually make sure that we're doing our due diligence, yes, but making sure that these folks have a pathway to live the American dream that I and my family have the privilege and the honor to live. So we're not separating families. We're not doing the E-Verify mandates that pull small businesses out of business. We're going to address the root of the problem by actually giving it the infrastructure and the resources to be successful. Because these farms are not going to hire folks who want $20 an hour. They're going to hire cheaper labor. So we need to have a pathway for these folks who want to come here and do those jobs to do them. So, yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Pope?
Well, being a law enforcement officer and having an education in counterterrorism, I find myself an expert in this field. Unfortunately, we don't have 2 hours to discuss this. I do believe America faces many challenges, but I do believe that there are three that stand above the rest: national debt, rising cost of living, but also border security. Let me make it clear. My great-grandparents came over from Italy, and they did it legally. They wanted to be productive in society. They wanted to live the American dream. We don't live in that world today. I believe we are a nation of laws, and those laws must be enforced. We need to secure the border, stop the flow of fentanyl that's killing our citizens, shut down human trafficking operations, and stop criminal cartels from exploiting weakness in our immigration system. Now, we live in a world right now where there are people that come into this country that want to harm us. They want to kill us. Yet there are also individuals that are trying to escape whatever issues and problems that they have in their countries. And I understand that, and we have to try to find something where we can work together. Things have to change. They have to change. If we don't show that there's a consequence for criminal action, then what ends up happening to our law enforcement system? I'm a father of a daughter that was involved in human trafficking. It's a real deal. I'm also the father of the same daughter that was also involved in drugs. As a law enforcement officer, I can tell you right now, I never thought it would ever happen to me. Guess what? It was a rude awakening. I felt helpless. Where does it start? A lot of the individuals that were involved came into this country illegally. So immigration needs to be done legally. okay? I do think there should be programs implemented for those that want to be constructive in our society. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Schneider?
Okay, we do need a comprehensive immigration bill. We need fairer processes for dealing with asylum claims. And then we need to keep our promises, like to the Afghanis who helped us, and we're now throwing them out. We do need better border control against fentanyl, human trafficking, currency trafficking, but not by murdering people on the high seas. Hey, the US is us, and we're murdering people in Afghanistan on the high seas in this country. We need legislative oversight. We also need more humane treatment, but with particular respect to ICE. We need legislative oversight. We need to require them to have judicial, not administrative warrants, particularly when they go into people's homes. We need tactical limits. In most circumstances, they should be required to wear badges, not masks. They should be required to wear body cams, to identify themselves. We need this. And we also need training and accountability for ICE officials. They need mandatory de-escalation training. We need to hold ICE officers legally accountable for violating the rules that apply to them. We also need some structural separation. Homeland Security from ICE, because Homeland Security has different rules. Now, a couple of years ago, there was a comprehensive immigration bill. I would have voted for it. Wasn't a great bill, but one Donald Trump killed it, so immigration would remain a political issue.
Thank you,
Let's
Ms.
take
Schneider.
another look. Thank you.
Mr. Pearson?
Well, we don't have to choose between a secure border and our humanity. America is strong enough to have both. Now, of course, we need a secure border. We have to have that. And we should focus our enforcement, though, on genuine threats to public safety. I absolutely do not support this mass deportation program that we have going on right now that tears families apart, disrupts communities, targets people whose only goal is to work and make a better life for themselves. Now, we know that there are solutions. As was alluded to, there was a bipartisan immigration proposal that Democrats and Republicans both agreed upon prior to the election, and then Trump tore it up so that he would have an explosive issue to run on. It did not have to be like that. Now, I believe most Americans want the very same thing: secure borders, orderly, legal immigration, and policies that reflect our values as a nation. But we can enforce our laws without abandoning our humanity. It affects people. It affected my family. My son is married to a Brazilian woman. They've been married 7 years. She has her green card. She came in legally, lawfully. However, these detention centers, these deplorable detention centers, have to be shut down. Look at what it did. She was afraid to leave her house because she looked different, and her accent might cause her to be arrested and then sent off to a detention center, even though she has a green card. So what did she do? After months of self-imposed house arrest, she moved back to Brazil. That's because of the unwelcoming atmosphere here in this country, because of these policies. We can do better. We must do better. The system is rigged when politicians can gin up some
Thank
kind
you,
of an
Mr.
issue
Pierce.
like that. It's a problem.
Mr. Kushner?
Thank you. Does everybody remember 2010 when Rick Scott announced he was running for office? You remember the FBI agent said his biggest career regret was not criminally prosecuting Rick Scott? What did Rick Scott run on? The only thing he could run on was this cheap populism of immigration. And his one thing, he dropped 70 million of his own money, and he said, we're going to go and ask, Bob, do you have your papers on you because I'm law enforcement and you have an accent, and I think if you have an accent, I have that right. Do you have legal status to be here? If Bob didn't have it, we had the right to detain him. 3 days, if his family doesn't come to show legal status, we're going to put him in an ICE detention facility and process him for deportation. Did Rick Scott ever do anything? No. So flash forward to 4 years of this first administration, a lot of rhetoric. Did they do anything? No. Right now, you have a second administration. What are they doing? $75 billion for a big show. And where are they going? Are they going to Texas and the state of Florida, where you have the largest undocumented population in this country? Absolutely not. They're going to Minneapolis to have a show for us. If you want to do something, why don't we have criminal felony penalties for every CEO, for Carlos Brew, for Pat Neal? Go to any construction site in Manatee County and tell me what language they're speaking there. And tell me why we're not there. Tell me why Grady Judd, the sheriff of Polk County, the biggest standard bearer for President Donald Trump, why he says we need comprehensive immigration reform now. Why? Because he understands why it's critical to the state of Florida, our immigrant population, and he might have a humane bone in him to understand that we don't have thugs on our streets that have no identification on themselves, they're covered in masks, and somehow we as a nation have deputized them to terrorize our streets and basically wreak havoc and cause trauma on U.S. citizens, on people with green cards that are documented to be here, etc. We can do better. If you want a DOGE cut, take that $75 billion away and pass comprehensive immigration reform that includes felony convictions for any business owner that is hiring someone who is not here legally.
Thank you so much. Mr. Spear, I'm starting with you. Next question. President Trump is taking initiatives to create a sovereign wealth fund, the purpose of which is to reduce our tax burden. The initiative involves the government taking stakes in critical technology, quantum computing, and critical mineral companies. Do you favor this initiative?
No, I don't. Look, this is part of the AI data center push, and it's a big problem. And we need to recognize what's happening with the AI data centers. This is actually a consolidation. This is the exact opposite. This is not a national security issue. That's what's being pushed right now with Byron Donalds, and I guarantee you Sidney Gruters would push this same false premise for national security. And I'm going to try to explain this because I come from technology. You need to understand that we had mainframes, and then distributed computing changed everything. There was an unleashing of technology. And now what we're looking at doing is creating more monopolies and more control, and this pushing towards a surveillance state that's very dangerous for everybody, and it's actually pushing for an actual monopoly, and that's not a national security issue. That's a huge problem, and it's doing the exact opposite. American ingenuity, by what I was describing earlier, of pushing and monopolistic practices to make sure that these companies are creating interoperability standards so that other artificial intelligence companies can step into the race. That's going to change things. So this idea that this is a national security threat, that we need to sacrifice our land and our water and this land use arbitrage that is just a part of an overall canard, that's going to end up being affordable housing, and that's going to be the solution. So don't believe affordable housing either. That's a big problem because all it means is higher density and more profits, and we're creating a bubble here in Florida. And so this is all a part of this entire push. So technically, it does not make any sense. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, architecture and software are going to unlock the innovation and the American ingenuity that has defined American exceptionalism within technology for the last, since technology was started. Thank you.
Thank you. Jan?
My answer is no. For once, I agree with you. But I don't think it's for the government to take over. It's for Donald Trump to take over. We saw that with strategic minerals in the Ukraine. I suspect we're seeing that with Iran and our sudden cordiality toward Iran. In this district, I'm rather disappointed. It looks like we're going to have a huge AI data center in DeSoto, and they want it.
No, they don't.
No.
No, they don't. I was there. They do not want it.
Well, the government seems to. Their
Answer the
council
question for me,
wants
please.
it. Their elected officials want it. It's dangerous. It uses too much water. The only thing I can think of worse is Elon Musk wants to put AI data centers in space. I don't know, maybe on Mars or in the moon. This is not what we need. Of course, we need to be ahead in technology. We're seriously behind in space technology, and that worries me a lot, that we need Musk to get our astronauts to the Space Center or an equivalent country. There are areas which I think are real technological threats, and space communications, where someone like Musk can own, what is it, tens of thousands of communication satellites. That's untold power, but not this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Pearson?
Yeah, I am not in favor of that at all. Just looking at the residents of DeSoto, and I do know for a fact that they do not want that. They don't want it. Most people, if they understand what's going on, they don't want these data centers in their neighborhoods and around their land, because the pollution that it will cause, people don't want that. And then you look, why does Trump have this initiative? What is he actually going for? When it comes to AI, AI is here to stay. It's here. We have to get our arms around it, and we have to make sure that we know what's happening. And it's about surveillance. It's about finding out each and every little detail about us. Our information has already gone to them. They know more about us than you think they do. That is a problem. We are setting up a police state, a surveillance state here. We need to fight against that. Since our data has gone to them, when it comes to the profits from AI, we should be profiting from that. They have our information. That money should be coming back to us. I think Bernie Sanders had a really great idea about that. 50% of the profits coming back to the people? That makes sense to me, but we need to know exactly what's going on here and understand that our data, your data, is being used. They know more about you than you think they do.
Kelly?
Thank you. Maybe we're going to have unanimous opposition to this one, which would be great. I think if you know, it wasn't clear in the question, but what this really is a bailout. They're asking for our taxpayer dollars to basically go to the tech bros that were significantly, like we talk about locally with our development community. If you think about Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, and the litany of other members of Silicon Valley that basically bankrolled that last election, we now need to have the federal government print money to basically put this in, and somehow we will then have ownership of it. And I would agree with the opposite proposal of someone like Bernie Sanders that finally is maybe a lone voice. It's pretty bad when the Vatican and the Pope are putting out more substantive material about artificial intelligence, how that impacts the future of work for all of us as humanity, for our children and grandchildren, and how quickly this is already changing in the number of layoffs. And the Pope is discussing that, but our Congress can't. And so what Bernie Sanders, and I appreciate it being brought up, is saying that all of that, the monetization of the collective, millennia of intelligence and thinking of human beings that has now been appropriated by these companies, and somehow they will profit off that and then leave significant millions of people, if not hundreds of millions of people across the world unemployed. There needs to be a conversation on what does regulation look like now, and how is it taxed, and how does that go back into the economy to benefit families, our workforce, et cetera.
Mr. Harris?
So in terms of my experience with AI and Data centers. I'm actually probably the person that's most on the stage qualified to speak on that. I work as a contractor in my day job for Special Operations Command, and specifically, I just wrote their AI governance policies. So I am literally at the tip of the spear when it comes to AI and data centers. This is the nationalization of AI and data centers here in America is an attempt by the Trump administration to, one, again, like Mr. Kirshner said, profit and bail out the tech bros, because that's the only thing that's actually keeping our economy afloat right now is the AI bubble. And once that pops, we know what's going to happen, right? But two, if anybody has been paying attention recently, we saw Anthropic was removed from the Department of Defense, Department of War contracts because they would not do what they wanted them to do. So if we nationalize this gives the United States government the ability to override the creators of these AI engines and do things like targeting without a person in the loop. So we can do boat strikes, in the Caribbean without actually having a person okaying that strike. And to me, having spent half of my life in the United States Army, I think that is not a road that we need to go down. There always has to be a human in the loop to make life or death decisions on our behalf. I don't care if we are the strongest Army, Navy, Air Force in the world. We still need to do things the right way and make sure that there's somebody that's accountable for those lives lost, instead of a machine that ran a calculation and determined that this person was a threat. So I agree, no, we're not going to do this.
Thank you, Mr. Pope.
Well, let me make it clear, I do support economic growth. I think American technology brings jobs back to the United States. I also believe growth must be done responsibly. One of the concerns I hear from residents throughout Florida is that we're losing the very thing that makes our state special. People are worried about overdevelopment, strain, or infrastructure, increased energy demand, water consumption, and the impact on our communities. I can tell you if I'm elected, I can ensure that large-scale IA center projects or any major developments are evaluated based on the impact of local communities and the environment, and what the corporate interest may be. This means protecting property rights, protecting our water resources, ensuring our power grids can handle the demand, and making sure local residents have a voice before these projects even move forward. I don't believe Washington should dictate what happens in our neighborhoods, and I don't believe developers should have more influence than the people who actually live here. We can support technology, innovation, and economic growth without sacrificing the quality of life that Florida families deserve. As a congressman, I will work to ensure that federal incentives and policies don't encourage unchecked development at the expense of our environment, our infrastructure, our communities. Growth important, but it must be smart growth, growth that benefits the people, not just the corporations.
Hold on, Eddie. Dr. Laus?
While I do also oppose the data centers, I am in support of attracting high-tech investment and good-paying jobs that come with these. We have to understand that AI is here, and we're going to, I don't think it's going anywhere. We're going to have to look at the jobs and things that workplace jobs that we can have and adapt to the change that AI is bringing in. I do believe that these facilities would put a strain on local water supplies and the power grid. And these are things that we have to pay attention to when we have those individuals that are wanting to put up these data centers. So with that said, and I know I have a few more minutes, I do want to go back to the issue on immigration. And I do want to just say that to you, Eddie, Renee Good and Alex Peretti were not immigrants that violated the law, and yet they were killed here in our country, on our soil. U.S. citizens. ICE did that. And I do want to also say, as an educator, the Fifth Amendment also states that due process and liberty is for any person within its jurisdiction. Not any U.S. citizen. So I just want to say that. The Fifth Amendment, in case if you want to look it up.
Eddie. 30 seconds, Eddie.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I want to hit the AI data center and go back to Ed Pope, and then we'll get to your question. Maybe we can do this again, because this has been very lively and a fantastic
Answer the
event.
question, Eddie.
Yes. So first, with the AI data centers, when you hear something about property rights, that is an entire work around. This is an onslaught of lawfare, of bribes, of networks that are going to keep pushing this land use arbitrage. And so just to be talking about land, I'm out of time.
So these next few questions are rapid questions. All we need is a yes or a no. We'll start with the first round. Will come, Kelly, you'll start. It'll go down to Mr. Harris. We'll come back down. It's going to do this, and then we'll end with a few questions. And thank you to the audience for being so respectful and coming through this. Thank you so much. Are you ready?
Yes, and again, yes or no. When you're on that floor, it's pushing yes or no. Are you ready? All right.
Survey says.
All right. Do you support a ban on stock trading by members of Congress and their immediate family members? Yes or no?
Absolutely yes on day one.
Mr. Pierce?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely, yes.
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 Thank you. The next question, starting with Mr. Harris. If insurance premiums begin rising again after the next major hurricane season, would you consider the reforms a failure or simply an unavoidable market response? Yes or no?
Mr. Harris?
I don't understand.
It's so-
That question is,
Yeah, I
you
was
gave
gonna
two
say.
choices.
Would, no, yes or no? Would you consider it a failure? I'm sorry, you're right. Would you consider it a failure, yes or no?
Yes.
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 Yeah, the reforms are a failure already.
Is that a yes or a no, sir?
That's a yes.
Thank you.
Yes, but
Yes.
Yes.
Starting with Mr. Harris, do you feel that the Supreme Court should have term limits?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
No.
no.
Yes.
Yes.
Next question. Under the Constitution, Congress has the authority to declare war. Also, under the Constitution, the president is the commander-in-chief. The War Powers Act limits presidential authority to continue world conflicts. Every president since 1973 has claimed that the War Powers Act is unconstitutional as a limit on the president's powers as commander-in-chief. Do you favor creating a constitutional crisis to try to limit the president's powers? Yes or no? Amendment. Thank you. Read it
It's
back.
not yes.
Can you clarify then the
Right.
question?
So the question that was presented, the president has, we won to war according to the notes that was submitted. Would you limit the powers of going to war, that we have to go through Congress first?
Does that include excursions?
Answer the question, yes or no?
Is it up to me first?
Yes, go ahead, Kelly.
I still don't fully understand the question, but I think that Congress has to exercise its right to authorize war, and we can call it excursions or whatever else, but it is up to Congress to authorize that.
Okay, you can elaborate, that's fine.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, but Congress has the power of the purse too, that it's not using to limit wars. Congress isn't even using the powers it has.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, Congress should maintain that power.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much. The SAVE Act. Do you, Jan, you ready?
Yeah.
What is your thoughts about the SAVE Act?
It's horrible. What it does to.
1 minute, ladies, I'm sorry. Go ahead,
Is this
Jan.
yes or no?
No.
No, 1 minute.
keep going.
Okay, what it does to married women, what it does to poor people without passports, what it does, it's voter suppression, pure and simple. And I think there are so many terrible things in that act. It's designed to move us further toward autocracy and dictatorship.
Mr. Pearson?
Yeah, the SAVE Act is just another way of suppressing the vote. When you have to go back and find a birth certificate and if you're married and your last name is changed, and then all of a sudden you create all of these barriers, a lot of people are just going to say, forget it. I can't do it. It doesn't make any sense. We can do much, much better. We have a very good system right now. When it comes to voter fraud, it's infinitesimal. It's so small. It's been proven over and over and over again that we do not have widespread voter fraud going on in this country. The SAVE Act does not need to exist.
Kelly?
I would agree. I think we're searching for a solution to a problem that doesn't exist, and it's similar to, there's a lot of political show, and where is the data on the fraud? We've been told for years about a fraud of a particular election, and yet that is yet to have been brought forward. And so if there's data, then we should have that conversation. But not seeing any data, this goes back to, can we please have serious conversations about the most serious and pressing issues that are facing our republic and our country? Can we talk about big money? Can we talk about the solvency of Social Security that we've known for 20 years by 2032 is going to be paying out at 80% less than at what they're paying out today? Why don't we have those conversations? Why do we have these false conversations about things that don't even exist, that problems don't even exist? Let's put our energy towards the things that really matter to the great majority of citizens of this country.
Mr. Harris?
So in terms of the SAVE Act in its current form, no, I think it's absolutely voter suppression. But I do recognize that there's a portion of this population that believes that there is a problem. I, like Mr. Kirshner, favor having actual data to back up these claims. However, I will say that there is a system now in place for registering for the draft. You don't even have to register anymore. You're automatically enrolled when you hit the age, right? So why is it that we can't have something like that? Wouldn't that make this whole process a lot simpler? We just automatically, once you turn 18, hey, you're registered at your home of residence. When you go to get your driver's license or whatever, they go ahead and put you on the rolls, right? So there's a simple fix to this that doesn't require a congressional bill that silences and suppresses voters that are most at risk, right? My wife is afraid to change her last name because she doesn't want to have to deal with the whole rigmarole getting to and actually casting her ballot. So there is a simple solution to this that's not the SAVE Act. Thank you.
Someone said good woman, but Dr. Pope, go ahead. Next question, same question.
You know, the SAVE Act is really about one simple principle. Only American citizens should vote in American elections. I don't think Thank you. I don't think it's a Republican issue or a Democratic issue. I think it's common sense. Voting is one of the most important rights we have as citizens. Protecting the integrity of our elections should be something we can all agree on. So I do support it.
Dr. Hunt?
I do not support the SAVE Act, needless to say, and about the lies about it being voter suppression, about them needing to implement this because of people voting that are not U.S. citizens. They don't say that when they win the elections. It only applies when someone wins that they disagree with. That's the only time that applies. So if there's an issue, I agree, data should be there, but the data should show that even when they win the elections, okay? Also, the SAVE Act takes us back more than 50 years. The Heritage Foundation are implementing nearly everything that they put in place for Project 2025. This is nothing new. No, absolutely not. I refuse to go back.
Eddie?
You haven't seen the fraud because you're watching MSNBC and CNN.
Oh, God.
Give me a break.
The fraud is there, and I will prove it, and I will put it on my website. I will prove it, and I will put it on my website. Unfortunately, a lot of the leadership within the Republican Party agrees with you guys because they are not passing it when they could simply easily pass it. But there's a lot of Republicans in name only that are pushing a political theater, and I called it out. I said the Save America Act is not going to pass because this is set up to be political theater, and it has been political theater, and they have not passed it, just like I predicted back in February.
Jane, 15 seconds.
We're looking backwards, so where we're going to see voter fraud is if President Trump and his cohorts get the post office control over absentee ballots. Then we're going to see massive voter fraud. They're not equipped to do that, and we should be looking forward to
Thank
the
you,
next
Jane. Mr. Harris?
I'm confused at how one congressional candidate in this race is able to find the fraud when it's been years and nobody has been able to reliably prove that there has been widespread voter fraud across the United States. And I'm a data guy. That's absolutely nuts.
I'll show you. And I remember
You're the
seeing
only
it
guy that can do it,
live
huh?
in 2020.
Wild.
I saw it live in Georgia. We have the video.
Thank
You're
you.
the only person that can do it.
Thank you. Next question. Next question, Glenn. This question, we will be starting with you.
That's right. This is fun.
What is the greatest threat facing the United States over the next decade? Economic competition, national debt, border security, foreign adversaries, cyber threats, or something else?
I'd say something else. I'd say it's the billionaires in this country that's capitalizing and taking over our political system. When you think of the population of just a little over 340 million people here in the United States, and of that number, 938 are billionaires, that is less than 0.3 of 1%. Yet that small fraction is controlling our political discourse, buying politicians, making it so that they can continue to get fatter and fatter while we are being left behind in the dust. That is something. And then it's also going to compromise this country when it comes to our standing in the world, technologically, because you've got the greed going on right now, and you see what it's doing when it comes to pollution. We are doing everything in order to make these fat cats even fatter.
Thank you,
while
Glenn.
we're suffering.
Thank you, Glenn. 1 minute, Kelly.
Thank you. I heard someone up front just say the greatest threat is the Democratic Party, and I hope it was a joke. And I don't think, unfortunately, it was a joke, and maybe I just heard the individual say, no, it wasn't. And I think that sums up, in essence, of where we are in this country. And it's really unfortunate. I'd love to talk to you afterwards, to be honest. 47% of this congressional district living one paycheck, one failure away from being in financial ruin. I don't think they see political parties. I think they see what Marjorie Taylor Greene talked about in that 60 Minutes interview. We have a country governed by a uniparty. You can see it locally. You can see how it exists in the Manatee County Commission, Sarasota County Commission. And I'm not sure why we are so somehow amused that we can't see it in Washington, D.C. And so we need to send to Washington, D.C. individuals that are accountable, not to parties, but to you. And when we do that, and when we take back the power, and when we address the money that's in politics, we start to bring back the republic that we cherish.
Thank you.
That represents you locally. And that is my intention, to do that and convince you that I will do a good job
Thank
at
you,
that.
Kelly. Mr. Harris?
I think it's twofold. When we talk about the greatest threat to the country is obviously going to be first the national debt, because we are running trillion-dollar deficits every year. And at a certain point, that becomes unsustainable. We pay $1 trillion a year just to service our debt, not even to pay the principal. So we're going to end up in a position where we're not going to be able to fund discretionary programs. And then where will we all be, right? So I think the next thing is obviously going to be foreign actors. Those of you who don't know, there are rooms bigger than this in China, Russia, North Korea, and all they do is sit on social media and influence how people think. So to the gentleman who said that the Democratic Party is the greatest threat to our country, well, there are rooms full of people in other countries who are their sole purpose is to convince you of exactly that.
Thank you. Mr. Pope?
You know, it's funny, people ask me the same question, and I ask them the same question, as far as what is the biggest threat that they believe is facing America, and I always get the same answer, and that is the loss of faith in the American dream. Families are working harder than ever, but many feel like they're falling behind. Young people aren't sure they'll even have the same opportunities their parents had. Too many Americans feel like Washington isn't listening, and they're not. I spent my life serving this country, and what concerns me most is not that Americans have lost the ability to succeed, it's that they're losing the confidence in their government. Thank you.
Dr. Lyons?
I think the greatest threat is a combination of three things. It is growing geopolitical instability, it is cyber threats, and it's also political division. That's the three that's hurting us worse. But don't be misled by political talking points. Greed is nothing new in politics. It's nothing new. There has always been a separation in the community between the community and those elected officials. That's exactly why people within the community feel that they're unheard and underrepresented. That's nothing new, but I am here to change that. I want to ensure that the people within the community are being heard and that they know that I can't be bought.
Thank you. Eddie?
I believe it's totalitarianism that's always been a threat and always at the door. And I do think that there are, within the Republican Party and the Democrat Party, there are bad actors that are pushing towards a ruling elite and a two-tier system of justice. And that is, everything else plays into that. That's the framework that we all need to understand. And we can solve some of these problems. I do agree with some of the things that my Democrat colleagues are saying here. And we have had some agreement. But when we have the totalitarian uniparty entrenched establishment that is not allowing us to have conversations. We don't need a blue wave now and then another red wave, and we've done this kabuki theater for a long period of time. We need a tidal wave to take out the corruption.
Jan?
I think the biggest threat to our country is us. Now, I think it was Kelly who mentioned Judeo-Christian ethics. We have Muslims in this country. We have Native Americans. We're all losing our moral base. The United States is us. We, the people, we're murdering and rendering homeless tens of thousands of innocent Iranians. We've killed, what is it now, 225 people, murdered them on the high seas. Our Supreme Court has given up its responsibilities. Our Congress has abdicated. Unless we all wake up and restore not only civility, but our moral guidance, then the biggest threat to our country is us.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you for being here, leading by example, your courage, your collaboration, and the conversation. I have the closing question, so this will be your last opportunity to address the audience. Congratulations. It's January 2029. You're seeking re-election. Remind us why we voted for you, and what should voters use to judge whether you've earned another term? You have 90 seconds. I'm going to start with Mr. Kirshner.
Thank you. Thank you all for sending me to Congress. It's great to be back here. And unlike our previous representative of District 16 that didn't host a town hall for over a decade, I've really been honored to host town halls frequently throughout all 6 counties of this incredibly gerrymandered district. I'm really glad that my friend that I saw in 2026 back in June, who said the greatest threat to this country was the Democratic Party, that I created an alliance with him in the general election against an establishment machine-endorsed individual, and we created an incredible grassroots people movement that won and got me into office. And you know what happened? We actually had, God forbid, someone who was representative of the district, who actually talked to Republicans, who talked to independents, who talked to Democrats, who actually grew up in this entire region and understood what the folks in these rural counties were facing, who actually lived and worked in St. Petersburg and understood the issues that they faced in Sarasota and Manatee, and came back and worked his ass off to represent your interests and actually advance things that grew trust of all Americans, but particularly here in Manatee County, that you can have a representative of Congress that represents your interests and brings that support back home to address affordability, to address the solvency of Medicare, to address the solvency of Social Security, and to make this country alive and anew again, that is respected throughout the world, and that our republic is much stronger as a result. Thank you again for having me here. I look forward to being your representative for the next 2 years as well.
Thank you. Mr. Pearson.
Wow, it's been a wild 2 years, hasn't it? We have done so much together. You were behind me at the very beginning. You propelled my candidacy, and I really appreciate that because over 2,700 signed and verified petitions for my candidacy. You helped me get on the ballot, so I want to thank you for that. And I promised you that I was going to listen to you and be your voice in D.C., and I've done that. I've met with you over and over and over again. I hold town halls all across all of our counties, from the coastal communities all the way to the farming communities. I've listened to you. Your voices have been heard, and I really appreciate that. You've been a strong support for me. I do know that you told me that it was your turn. It was your turn because after 5 decades of billionaires having their way, it's finally time for your voices to be heard. It's been heard over the past 2 years. We've done what we should do in Congress. We've checked power. I've told you the truth. I've asked the tough questions, and I've held the powerful accountable. You've been with me, giving me that support. So we want to do it again. We want another 2 years because now we are really getting going. So thank you very much. Let's do it again. Let's get after it.
Thank you, Ms. Schneider.
I want you to elect me again because of putting people before party, people before partisanship, all the people. I have in the past, I think unique of any local politician, been endorsed by the Jewish caucus and the Muslim caucus in the same election because I care about Americans. In Congress, I have been foremost in forging consensus by working issue by issue by issue, whether it's with Eddie or anyone. I thank you for your continuing support, but we have to all work together. My previous experience as a litigator, I settled in the end, and I still settle about 90% of my cases. Early on, everything looks so black and white, dark. The more you get into Congress, the more you get into litigation, the more you see there's usually a lot of right on both sides. We have to return to civility so that we can talk to each other and look for agreed solutions bit by bit by bit. I thank you for your support and your continuing support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Spear?
Thank you. It's been a wild ride. It's been incredible that we rode the wave that started in 2024 to kick out the corruption in this district, and we continued it through 2026. And I'm happy to say that we repealed the Bevel Amendment that held Mosaic accountable to correct and collect the water and prevent them from damaging our environment. I'm also very happy that we signed single-item bills, and now I told you it was going to work, and now it's amazing that everybody across America is looking at their congressmen and actually having them do appropriations. And look at what happened. We cut the debt. It's amazing. And the economy took off because the trust laws that we enacted. Now the economy is taking off. And look at what happened within the Republican Party. We returned back to limited government, to free markets, to individual liberty, and we held each other accountable to make the party better, to make this country better. And I'm just so thankful for all of your support. And I got to talk to my wife if I want to run again, because this is a big fight, and I'm sick of all these people in D.C.
Thank you, Dr. Lyles.
Ladies and gentlemen of CD 16, I want to thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve you. Thank you for recognizing my diverse background and how it is a representation of everyone within our community. Whether it's from my education, whether it's from being a veteran, a small business owner, a nonprofit owner. Thank you for recognizing that my campaign was run and called, we have a slogan that's called Purpose Over Politics. It's not just a campaign slogan, it represents who I am, and I appreciate you representing that part of me. I want to thank you and hope that you will recognize the work that I will continue to do for our community, to continue to ensure that you are heard in DC and that you are adequately represented from the top of those that may be billionaires. So I have some billionaires in here? See me afterwards. But no, I'm kidding. No, but whether you are someone that is coming from a very affluent background or someone that is one of the hard workers in this community, please know that I am a voice for you. Now, I stand firm on what I say. I cannot be bought. I cannot be bought. And I believe that you would recognize that and appreciate that with my work in DC.
Thank you, Dr. Lyles. Dr. Pope?
You know, looking back on my time in Congress, I hope the people of District 16 voted for me for one simple reason. They knew that I was there to serve them. I wasn't a career politician when I first ran, and I'm still not one today. But before Congress, I served this country in the Navy. I served my community in law enforcement. Public service wasn't something I talked about. It was something that I lived. When I came to Washington, I made a promise that I would put the people of District 16 first. Not special interests, not lobbyists, not political parties, and certainly I would put the people first. I fought to secure our border, protect our communities, defend our freedoms, support our veterans, and make life more affordable for hardworking families. But more importantly, I listened. I showed up, I answered tough questions, and I never forgot who sent me there. The greatest honor of my life has been earning the trust of the people I represent. If I've been reelected, I hope it's because the people of District 16 know that my word means something and that I've never stopped fighting for them. At the end of the day, titles don't matter. What matters is whether you leave things better than you found them. That's what I've tried to do every day as your congressman. And with your support, I will continue to work. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harris?
I want to say thank you to the voters in Congressional District 16. You recognize that I was not a part of the political machine, the establishment. I wasn't handed $100,000 on day one and told to run. You heard me when I said that the younger generation was losing faith in our elected leaders and our system of government. You understood that I would bring accountability and professionalism back to the role because, after all, that is exactly what I've been doing for the last 20 years. I have been serving this nation. I swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. And you trusted me to continue that mission for you in Washington. You trusted that I would be able to implement my American Choice Healthcare Plan and provide healthcare at lower cost to all Americans, regardless of whether you're employed or having issues with circumstance. You trusted me to lower costs at the pump when you buy groceries. And you trusted me to support and expand our veterans' healthcare, because we know that veterans who serve, they deserve the treatment, the dignity, and the healthcare that they earned through their multiple deployments. And you trusted me to ensure that the programs such as Social Security and Medicare that you paid for remain solvent so that you can still benefit from them in your retirement. Thank you. Let's do it again.
Thank you, Mr. Hills.
Ladies and gentlemen, has been your Florida Congressional District 16 candidate debate. We have August 18th, a primary for the Democrats and a primary for the Republicans, which they will actually head off in November. Please give our candidates a round of applause. Thank you so much for being here this evening. Thank you to METV, which is a great resource. You can find this recording tomorrow. It will be uploaded on YouTube and the Manatee Tiger Bay. Thank you to my co-host, Jamie Smith. Thank you to my timers, my board member, and thank you to all of you who showed up tonight. Have a great evening.
Thank you.